The awakening of the inner giant. The world we inhabit today is defined by excess noise, excess speed, and excess distraction. Information floods our senses without pause. Expectations are imposed from every direction, and pressure becomes the background of daily life. From an early age, we are conditioned to believe that peace and fulfillment exist somewhere outside of us, in recognition, status, wealth, approval, and control over outcomes that were never truly ours. Yet long before modern society existed, the ancient Stoics observed this same human confusion and offered a radically different solution. They taught that within every individual there exists an inner stronghold, an invisible fortress often called the inner citadel, a place no insult, no loss, no external chaos can invade unless invited. This fortress is not built of stone, but of reason, clarity, and discipline. And over the next 12 minutes, we are not simply revisiting philosophical ideas. We are reconstructing a mindset capable of withstanding pressure without breaking. We are animating the wisdom of Marcus Aurelius, the emperor burdened with power who fought daily battles within his own thoughts. Seneca, the advisor to emperors who faced exile, disgrace, and death with composure. And Epictetus, born into slavery, who discovered a freedom of mind greater than any crown could offer. This moment is an invitation to step away from the noise of the world and return to what is timeless, unshakable, and within your reach, the foundation, the sovereignty of the mind. At the heart of Stoic philosophy lies a principle so simple yet so transformative that once understood it permanently alters how life is experienced. This principle is the dichotomy of control. It divides reality into two domains: what is up to us and what is not. Nearly all emotional suffering, anxiety, resentment, and frustration arise when we confuse these two domains. We exhaust ourselves attempting to command opinions, outcomes, and events that will never submit to our will. We worry endlessly about how others perceive us. We replay past mistakes that cannot be undone, and we fear future scenarios that exist only in imagination. Epictetus reminds us that our only true possession is our faculty of choice. Our judgments, intentions, values, and responses belong to us completely. Everything else, including the body, reputation, wealth, health, and social standing, lies outside our absolute authority. When this truth is deeply absorbed, the psychological burden we carry begins to dissolve. We stop interpreting life as something happening to us and begin experiencing it as something we participate in through character. Imagine the calm that emerges when a crisis appears and you respond internally with clarity, saying, "This situation is beyond my control, therefore it cannot harm my character." This is not emotional numbness, it is disciplined focus. It is directing energy toward what can be shaped and withdrawing it from what cannot. Sovereignty of the mind is not about domination of the world, but mastery of perception. The training, premeditation of adversity. Modern culture encourages constant optimism and avoidance of discomfort. We are told to visualize success while ignoring fragility. The Stoics took a more grounded and resilient approach. They understood that the shock of misfortune causes more harm than misfortune itself. Thus they practiced Premeditatio Malorum, the premeditation of adversity. This exercise involves calmly and rationally imagining possible losses before they occur. Consider the things you value most: your career, relationships, physical ability, comfort, and stability. Now imagine their absence not with despair but with honesty. Imagine losing a position, being misunderstood, facing illness or financial reduction. This practice is not pessimism, it is preparedness. By rehearsing adversity, you reduce its power to destabilize you. You remind yourself that even when circumstances deteriorate, your capacity for reasoned choice and dignity remains intact. You recognize that you are not as fragile as fear suggests. What once seemed unbearable becomes manageable through anticipation. Gratitude also deepens, because you begin to appreciate what exists now without clinging to it desperately. You enjoy without illusion and love without dependency. This mental training transforms fear into familiarity and replaces panic with readiness. The midpoint: reflection and connection. As these ideas settle into awareness, take a slow, deliberate breath. Notice the stillness that emerges when attention is directed inward. Resilience is not an abstract trait reserved for a few. It is a skill developed through repetition, reflection, and conscious practice. If this exploration of inner strength resonates with you, allow a moment of action to follow insight. Supporting this message helps ancient wisdom reach those overwhelmed by modern confusion. And if you feel called to continue cultivating discipline, clarity, and purpose, consider joining this growing community. Shared commitment strengthens individual resolve. Now let us proceed deeper. Remembering that transformation occurs not through inspiration alone, but through sustained application. The transformation, the love of fate. Beyond acceptance of reality lies a more demanding and empowering posture known as Amor Fati, the love of fate. This principle challenges us not only to endure what happens, but to affirm it, to look at every event, especially the painful ones, and say, this belongs to me, this is material for my growth. Marcus Aurelius described the trained mind as a fire that turns everything placed upon it into fuel. Nothing is wasted, nothing is rejected. In this view, adversity is not an interruption of life, but the substance through which character is formed. Betrayal becomes training in forgiveness and boundary clarity. Hardship becomes instruction in endurance and creativity. Loss becomes a teacher of impermanence and appreciation. When resistance to reality dissolves, energy once spent on complaint becomes available for action. Obstacles cease to appear as enemies and instead function as challenges that sharpen virtue. Life stops being a series of problems to avoid and becomes a continuous workshop for the soul. Loving fate does not mean seeking suffering, but refusing to be diminished by it. The cosmic perspective, the view from above. To further loosen the grip of ego and anxiety, the Stoics practiced an exercise known as the view from above. This contemplation expands perspective beyond immediate concerns. Imagine awareness lifting beyond the body, beyond the room, beyond the city, rising until continents, oceans, and borders dissolve into a single moving sphere. From this vantage point, individual dramas shrink into context. Arguments, reputational fears, and minor failures lose their intensity. You recognize yourself as part of an immense, interconnected process unfolding across time and space. This perspective does not erase responsibility. It refines it. You see that your role is small yet meaningful. Significance arises not from dominance, but from alignment with reason and nature. Peace emerges when personal importance softens and participation in the whole becomes primary. The discipline of daily conduct. Stoicism is not a philosophy of retreat, but of engagement. It demands conscious action in daily interactions. How you speak, how you listen, how you respond under stress are all training grounds for virtue. Patience is practiced in traffic, restraint is practiced in temptation, courage is practiced in honesty, kindness is practiced in inconvenience. The Stoic understands that character is revealed not in grand gestures, but in repeated small choices. Every moment presents an opportunity to act in accordance with reason or surrender to impulse. Discipline is not restriction but direction. It channels desire toward what strengthens rather than weakens the self. The final inventory, the evening review. To ensure growth remains active, the Stoics emphasized reflection. At the close of each day, Seneca described reviewing actions, thoughts, and reactions before sleep, asking simple but penetrating questions. Where did I act with wisdom? Where did I allow emotion to overrule reason? What can be improved tomorrow? This practice is not self-condemnation, but calibration. Awareness brings correction. Correction brings progress. Over time, patterns become visible. Strengths consolidate, weaknesses lose momentum. The mind becomes both student and teacher, engaged in continuous refinement. The return to the world. As this reflection concludes, do not allow it to remain abstract. Carry these principles into conversation, work, challenge, and rest. Resilience is not possessed passively. It is enacted deliberately. You are not required to control the world, only to govern your response to it. Mastery of the mind creates freedom regardless of circumstance. Thank you for dedicating this time to inner development. If clarity or calm emerged, support this ongoing effort by engaging and sharing. And as you return to daily life, remember this. External events shape conditions, but character determines experience. Walk with virtue, act with intention, and trust that the strongest force you will ever need already lives within you.